going on, everyone? It's Corey and Jack here from the Breakevens, giving you another podcast today. Jack, do you want to say hello to the folks?
Hello.
Okay, so we are re-recording this podcast because last time I forgot to record audio. And unfortunately, today is the only day we had some spare time to do it. So we're sorry for the delay, but we're back. Okay, so let's get everything done out of the way first before we get into what we're doing today. So first, we've got the Breakevens Unlimited group. The code is 432856. Last time I checked, we have 111 people in there, which is great. We're trying to get 150 before round one, so we've got a bit of a challenge to go, but I reckon we can do that. So again, 432856 is the code. You can find us on Twitter at BreakeVensPod. We've got a new profile picture and a new header there. It's the same on YouTube. If you search the Breakevens, you'll find us there. 108 subscribers currently, on the road to 200 there. So hit that subscribe button. And again, we have a new profile picture, new header. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can already tell we have a new intro as well. So we've hit 100 subscribers and we've done a big revamp. So we're happy. All right, now that's all done and dusted and out of the way. So what we're doing today is our top 5 ruck predictions and our top 10 forward predictions. Okay, again, these are just predictions. We have risky picks in here. Doesn't mean we're saying these guys are going to be the top 5 rucks or top 10 forwards. Just predictions, and as always, it is done in total points this year, not average. That said and done, we'll start with the rucks, Jack. So who is your number 5?
Talking about risky, I've got Tim English at number 5.
Yep.
With it being total points, we know he's most likely going to miss 1 or 2 weeks here and there throughout the whole season, which obviously brings it down. I don't really know what to say. I just think like he's obviously gonna kill it. But I think missing those weeks is missing points where the people I've got ahead of him, I think will be playing every week, which is getting more points, and they're all going to average over 100.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he has the highest ceiling of any of the rucks, but you've already seen this preseason. He's had a couple niggles and he missed about 6 games last season. And because we're going on total points, I totally get why you have him at number 5. My number 5 is Rowan Marshall. I could probably put him at 4, but I've gone safe with 5. Number 1 ruck, absolutely dominated the preseason game. He's looking to explode because he's finally that number 1 ruck. There's no Paddy Ryder finally. His work around the ground is exceptional, and that's where he's going to score most of his points. He doesn't have to win every hit out, but he's going to get his 15 to 20 touches and those marks around the ground. And if he does rest up forward and get a bit of time up there, he's shown that he can score goals, which is just even more points. So I think Marshall in at number 5 is the safe option, but could always be number 4 there. So who is your number 4?
It's Rowan Marshall.
There you go.
Yeah, you've pretty much hit the nail on the coffin there. But he did show in the pracky, even though he was number 1 ruck, he kicked a goal or two, even as playing as the ruckman. So
Yeah.
like that's just extra points added to his total. He's definitely the bargain of the year in the rucks, that's for sure. So that's a big reason to get him in. But yeah, he's with that number 1 ruck role, he looks like he's gonna go insane.
Yeah, he's really the only ruckman that you can count on at the moment. Like, everyone's thinking Cameron, there's Darcy, Gorn, Witts, English, but everyone's got Marshall, or everyone should have Marshall anyway. So
Yeah.
Yep, nice. My number 4 is Shrek Darcy. As I said, he probably could have swapped with Marshall, but I think he's going to go nuts and do the Sean Darcy that we saw a couple of years ago, where he smashed out a 190. And that's purely why I've got him ahead of Marshall. Just his ceiling, I feel, is a bit higher. Now, is that affected by Luke Jackson? We saw it in the first unofficial game. He played, I think it was 75-25 was the ruck split with Jackson. So Darcy was at 75%. And then obviously Jackson didn't play, not last week or the week before, whenever it was. It was like, yeah, last week, most likely. Um, he showed how dominant he can be, and if he rests up forward, again, same as Marshall, and well, almost the same as most of these rucks, because they're so big, they can clunk and they can kick goals. And Darcy's just looking fit. Um, he wasn't looking fit last year, and that was pretty obvious just because the way he ran out games, and the time he spent everywhere else and resting and on the bench. So Shrek Darcy in at number 4 for me. Who is your third pick for me, Jack?
I mean, it's probably a risky one again, seeing he finished higher, but I've got Max Gorn.
Yep.
Um, he's still gonna have games where he scores 150 plus, but it's the unknown with the ruck combo. We really didn't get much with Gorn and Grundy from the game, the official pracky, because it looked like Grundy was, when he went in, it was in the ruck, and then when he wasn't, he was on the bench just trying to get through match fitness into his knee from the injury last year. So with that, I can see a bit of an inconsistent swing with Gorn at times. I can see he could probably drop some 60s and 70s, but like I said, he could also score those 150s. It's just the unknown, especially we saw with Melbourne. Clayton Oliver spent like half the time on half back and then half the time in the midfield. It was, you're there scratching your head like, what's going on here? Um, so that unknown, that randomness, especially just in Melbourne in general, it's a bit not worrying but scary.
Yep.
And yeah, with the total points, it's not great if he's chucked forward for most of the game one week and he scores a 40 or a 60.
Yep. I've got Gone in at number 3, and just to add to what you're saying, um, it did look like they were resting Grundy a bit more. So Gone, who turned up, I think was it 130 or was it 113? There was
I
definitely
think,
three in there.
nah, it was 130 plus.
130, yeah. Um,
I think it was 150 odd
yeah.
because
So
he kicked the 3 goals.
we can definitely get games like that. And as Jack just said, they both kicked 3 goals, which means their main threat this year is they can both kick goals. Like we've seen Gorn. Was it last year or the year before in the prelim where he snagged like 4 in a quarter, and one was a running Bunana from the pocket.
I think that was 2 years ago, but yeah.
2 years ago. Yep, there you go. Um, as long as he's not taking a set shot from 30 meters out directly in front, Gorn's usually pretty good. And Grundy hasn't really done that push forward when he was at Collingwood, so it'd be interesting to see how he goes. But Gorn can play forward, he can play back, he can play in the ruck. Um, but it's definitely that unknown that you were talking about. How much time do they actually get? Is it a 50-50? Is it a 60-40? Or is it like a Sean Darcy and Luke Jackson 7-30? Who's the number 1 ruck? Who knows? I mean, what could happen early is, because they're trying to just ease Grundy back into it, you might see the first 5 to 8 rounds go and be that number 1 ruck, and then when Grundy gets that confidence back and that run in his legs, we might see a switch, and then that's when Grundy becomes that number 1 ruck for the rest of the season. It's very interesting, but Gordon and Grundy are both DPP potentials. So that's something we have to look out for. But yeah, just because that unknown gone in at number 3. Moving on to number 2, Jack, who you got?
I've got Sean Darcy.
Nice.
Um, the thing that let Darcy down last year was he'd dropped 60s and 80s.
Yep,
Obviously, when you were saying he wasn't didn't look the fittest, this year he looks fucking elite. Um,
he does.
I can see a more consistent scoring with Darcy this year. Obviously, the emergence of that young midfield, performing better, um, and getting like better individually, we're gonna see more tap out to advantage, in my opinion, not just tap outs because he's a tap out beast as well, Shrek
Yep,
Darcy. Yeah, with Brayshaw, lighting it up, Sarong being very good as well. We could see more taps down to them, which is a tap out to advantage, which we didn't see much of.
yep,
The last few years with Darcy and with Freo growing their midfield. But yeah, I think Darcy's gonna have a more consistent year. We know he can go big, get those 190s, 200s like English. I think the consistent year, looking fit and firing, looks like to play 23 games unless something strange happens. I can see him having a very big year.
yep. And even to add on to that midfield, they had Will Brodie last year, who looks to be continuing on from that, and they
He
brought
had
in.
more. He had more time on ground on the Pracky
Yes,
game than he did all last year.
yes, they. Apparently, he works really hard on his fitness and his cardio there. So, but you also have to remember Jaeger O'Meara came over. So
Yes,
that's just another one. Yes, he's not Supercoach relevant, and he's probably gone unders on what his potential is. But he's still a decent footballer who can,
he's a class footballer. He's just not a class super coach footballer.
yeah. But you have 4 good midfielders right there to tap down to, and even
Five
maybe
could go in there a little bit as well.
Fife, and even Luke Jackson could be a rover. So
Yeah,
it's pretty exciting. But I've got Tim English at number 2. The only reason I have English at number 2, not number 1, is I think he's going to miss 1 to 2 games this year. As I said at the start, um, his scoring potential is highest out of all the rucks, and he's probably one of the most consistent. Um, but it's just those concussions, those small niggles. He's had a groin and a hamstring, or a groin and a back over the preseason. I think he's going to miss games. But if he doesn't, then he's definitely the number 1 ruck by total points by an absolute mile. Um, but I'm just worried about those injuries, so that's why I've chucked him at number 2. Which means, Jack, I think we have the same number 1.
yeah, and it's in my opinion the most consistent ruckman in the competition. Super coach wise and performance wise. So it's obviously Toby Nankervis. No, it is Jared Witts. Like Darcy, the resurgence of the Gold Coast midfield with Took and Noah Anderson, I can see a bit more tap out to advantage. He's not just trying to get it to Took every time. He's got Noah Anderson, Matt Rowell in there who are getting better every year. Obviously, Rowell probably isn't super coach relevant, unlike the other two. But like O'Meara, he's a class footballer who can get those balls in the clearances in the middle off the tap outs. Which obviously helps his scoring. Gotta hope this year that towards the end of the year that the super coach gods don't do him dirty after kicking a goal and losing 4 or 5 super coach points.
You're
Um,
still you're still dirty on that.
Absolutely I am. Cost me games that you kick a goal and you lose super coach points. It makes no sense at all. Um, but he's just Mr. Consistent, so that's why I've got him at number 1.
Yeah, and he's my number 1 as well. And just to add on what you were saying, We were worried last year at 300k. Can he play 23 games coming off an ACL? He got through all of last year's games. He's had a full preseason so far, touching wood. There's only a few days left. Um, and yeah, that extra run, I think we'll see him be more consistent over the year. He was really good up to the buys, and then after the buys, that's when we started to see that drop, just because he'd been out of the game for a year and coming back from that ACL. Obviously, um, his preseason last year, it was a slow build up, where now it's a more consistent build up that we want and that footballers are usually used to. So I I think he's the safest out of um, him, English Gordon Darcy. He's my R1 at the moment, and I don't think he's going to move. Um, and yeah, I think just because he's playing those 23 games, he's the number one man. So that's who I've got at number one, and that's the Rucks done and dusted. So we'll move over now to the forwards. All right, so with the Rucks out, done, and out of the way, let's move to our top 10 forwards. So, Jack, who you got here at number 10?
I've got Jeremy Cameron.
Nice.
Um, with Tom Hawkins definitely missing round one, could miss up to the first 4 rounds with his injury. I think that gives more points for Jeremy Cameron. But we saw last year with the likes of Cameron, Hawkins, and Tom Lynch, they could score very high, but also score 70s, 60s sometimes. But with Hawkins out, I can see Jeremy Cameron going big for those first few weeks, which obviously helps with his total points. And then when Hawkins comes back, it's more of a 50-50 split between their points. They'll both be getting around 100 to like 70, 60. But yeah, that's why I've got Jeremy Cameron at 10. That first 4 weeks is going to be very big for him.
Yep. I've got him a little later, so I'll say a bit more on that when I get to it. But my number 10, and when we first recorded this, when I stuffed up the audio, I was big on this kid, and now there's a possibility he might not even be best 22. But that is Tanner Bruin from Geelong. I got him in at number 10. I just liked his role and what I've seen from him over the preseason. He's had main mid time, and he could easily average 95 plus. Um, but there's a few talks going around that he might not even be best 22, or if he is, he might be a sub risk, which is making me shit my pants basically because I've got him at F6. But if he does, if he's nailed in on that side, I think he easily go 95 plus with that role. It's purely based on role there, so um, it could definitely be someone else. But I'm backing in Tanner Bruin at number 10. Number 9, Jack. Who do you have here?
Tom Lynch. We saw last year, I think it was like a 5-6 game run where it looked like he was just dropping 170 points for fun, kicking like 7 goals a game. I can see that happening again with Tom Lynch, but with Tom Lynch, with how like many stars you can say in the Richmond forward line with Rewalt, Dusty, Koch, and Bolton all sitting there as well. There's a bit of a worry that there's going to be more of a shared super coach goal contributions, but which also includes the super coach with them. But the thing that why I've put Tom Lynch here is in the pracky against Melbourne. He was the forward pushing up the ground. He was taking marks on the wing, kicking it inside 50 to Rewalt Martin. But he was also a target up in the forward line as well. So he was taking marks there, but he was obviously he's not the quickest bloke, but as soon as he kicked it, you'd see him just start sprinting back into the forward line, even though most of the time he wasn't quick enough to be an option because of how fast Richmond play at times. It's good to see that he's taken that key forward role where he's pushing up, getting the pill, hitting it inside 50, and also being like still like the main target inside forward 50 as well. So that's why I've got Tommy Lynch at 9.
Yep, and that's what I was going to say with Jeremy Cameron, who is my number 9, is that um, his role when Hawkins plays is obviously he's a big target inside forward 50, but he also pushes up to the wing and gets his possessions there. And then, like you were saying with Lynch, he pushes back hard. He has that work rate to get back into that 50 and try and be an option there as well. So um, I I think he has the potential to score high, especially with Hawkins, as you said, possibly out for the first month. It's going to help Cameron out a lot. But as all key forwards, and as Jack said with Jeremy Cameron, they'll score the big ones, the what 140s, 150s, but then also they'll score those 50s and 60s. It's just how key forwards go, and it depends on the team and the matchup. But I think Cameron has a better floor than most. I don't really see him going under 75, 80 too often. I just think because he works
Yeah.
the ground, his floor's a bit higher, which you'll take. All right, that's my number 9. Who's your number 8?
So this is very risky as the man was third highest forward last year, and he's a blonde surfer boy from the New South Wales with the name of Isaac Heaney. Um, every year we're hearing more midfield time, more midfield time. Last year we got it in glimpses, especially when Mills went to Mr. Fix It. Heaney was like the one to go in there, but with the Pracky game and no Callum Mills, I don't think Heaney had one centre bounce, and if he did, he had very little.
Yeah,
Um,
I think he got a few, but it definitely wasn't
yeah,
enough.
it's like Errol Gordon's taken that role from him, which good on him because he's a bloody superstar. Um, but it's just Heaney. He's that key. He's gonna be that like key forward again. I guess you can say. Obviously, he's not the key forward, but he's like Dustin Martin, who's gonna be like the main target down there. Like one of the main targets going to him one on one because we know how good Heaney is in one on one situations. He can take a specky on his opponent. He can outmuscle him at times, depending who it is.
Yeah,
Um, and he can kick 2-3 goals a game, but I don't. But also with Heaney, we have the weeks where he scores 40 and 50.
yeah,
So that's why he's having a massive drop for me. I think that loss of a role is massive. Is a massive down, like a decrease to his performance than Tom Lynch or Jeremy Cameron pushing up the ground a bit more.
yep.
Um, but in saying that, I think Heaney's still going to be a bit more consistent with his scoring compared to Lynch and Cameron. That's why I've got him at 8.
Yep, I've got Heaney at 8 as well. I'm predicting an injury. Um, that's why I've got him a bit lower. Um, as you said, Goulden looks to be taking that more mid-time role, and they came out today. I think it was Luke Parker. It was either today or yesterday.
It
Came
was
out.
yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday came out and said that he's definitely looking to play more mid time, depending how much that is. But if it's anything like we saw in the practice matches, Heaney's not really going to get a look in unless there's an injury. So I think Heaney will still be a consistent scorer. I just don't think his ceiling is what it was last year. So that's why I've got him in at number 8. Moving on to number 7, who do you have?
I've got Butters, who finished number 4 last year, old mate from South Park Elementary. I feel like his role gets hit a little just because of the surgence of Connor Rosie. I feel like they're taking a switch.
Yeah,
Obviously, Butters will still play midfield like Rosie did last year, but I feel like Rosie's going to be that guy. Um, the majority mid, but also we know with Butters gets concussed, gets these soft injuries last year, especially missed some games. He played 20 games, so he missed 2 games, but concussion. He's known to get a soft injury that sometimes he plays through, sometimes he doesn't. But also with Butters, we saw last year, especially I think it was the first 10 rounds, he was dropping scores of 40s, 50s for
oh,
fun.
don't remind me.
And that's the worry with me, because he had that better role than Rosie last year, and he obviously finished higher than him because of a massive second half of the year. But those first 10 games, especially with that better role, to be scoring 40s and 50s, it's laughable, really.
Yeah,
I still think he's going to have a good year and be around that 95 to 98 mark. I think he could push it up a little bit, but I'm just a little worried that his role's getting a little worse. But he also obviously has his ability to drop 50s for fun if he wants.
yeah, he's. So I've got Butters in at number 7 as well. He definitely has the potential to score points. Like he works really hard and he usually hits the scoreboard as well. But I definitely think Rosie is going to get more mid time over him. Not saying that Butters isn't going to get anything. I think Butters will still get a decent amount, but it's not going to be what we want from him and his potential. Um, as you said, he does have these injuries. Like there was one he was on like almost 100 super coach at halftime last year or the year before, and then got
It was
injured.
last year.
Yeah, last year, and then got injured. You know, he was on for a 180, so he has an absolute massive ceiling once he has that role. It's just will he get that role? Can he maintain that role? And can he stay healthy? So it's the only reason why I don't have him in the top 6 is because I think he might miss games due to these small injuries. All right, so we'll move on to number 6.
This might hurt you and a lot of people. I've gone very risky and very heavy on the Pracky, and I've got Stephen Canelio at 6.
Okay.
Now, I don't really see a decrease. I don't really see, I can see him improving a bit, but I don't see him improving a lot. From that Pracky, he had the perfect role. He had free 2.5 quarters of injury-free football, and he looked a step behind everyone else. Um,
Yeah.
he finished scoring an 80. He was on 40 odd at half time, so it's like might have been like 45 to like around that 45 mark. At half time, so he had a bit of a better first half to a second half. Obviously, he got killed. Um, Cleaned up. But before that, he just looked a step behind. You had your Kellys, your Greens, your Callahans who were just taking the mickey out of the game, and there was Canelio there with the role, but he wasn't doing much. He ended on 20-25 disposals, I think, which is good, but even like his disposal efficiency did not look great as well. So obviously I'm jumping the gun with that Pracky, but like that's majority what I can put into if I'm looking at total points. I'm here going, if he's doing that, is his first 4 or 5 weeks going to be a very slow start? And is that
Definitely.
going to affect him in his total points coming into the season? I still think Canelio's a good player. I love watching him. I love watching that Giants midfield. To be honest with you, they've got class all around and young class players to go with your Rolls Royces of Cornelios and Callie's. But it's the worry of he looks not like he looked a step behind everyone else. Does he start the season like that? So I've gone a bit risky and saying that he does. Um, but it's also because I think there's a couple of people who have a big jump in their scores that I think this slow start obviously puts him a bit behind him.
Yep.
Obviously he can go huge and drop 150 round one, but I'm just basing it off the pracky.
Yep, that's fair enough. I've got him a bit higher, but I'll talk about why when I get to him. So my number 6 is Errol Goulden, the man we were talking about before. Absolutely killing it in the practice matches. As we said, Luke Parker has said he's going to play more mid. He has the potential to definitely go a bit higher, I feel, but I'm picking in between that 100, range. If he can keep that midfield role, he's a very impactful player. I think he had one of the highest scores per minute in the practice matches, so he gets the ball a lot, and the way he uses it um, bumps up his score, and he can always go forward and kick goals. I was looking at Butters. Do I switch him with Butters? I think Gordon plays more games, and I think he has a better role. That's what I was looking at during the practice matches. Is not exactly how many points they scored, even though when Gordon scored 190, it's pretty hard to not think about it. But I looked at the role, and if I thought the role looked good, then that's when I started to change positions around, and even in my team, people came in, people went out, just pure on roles. So Gordon at number 6 could do anything. He could be top 3. He could be out of the 10. But I'm backing him in for number 6, which I did early in the preseason. All right, we'll move straight to number 5.
I'm going with Errol Gordon at number 5 to add on to what you said. When he plays his half forward role, he pushes up the ground and he gets the ball around the wing anyway. So his role is very good. Even if he's not as much mid as he was in the pracky, you still see him. Even last year, as that half forward, he pushes up, gets the ball around the middle of the ground, and gets inside 50s anyway.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, there's not much more really to add on to what you said. He's absolutely killed it. I think someone said he had an average of 155 in the two pracky games.
It's not bad.
Which it's I think that's the best out of anyone. It's absolutely ridiculous, especially the first one you had, what was it, 28 players rotating around, and then the second one you had 26 players, which is obviously extended players.
Yeah.
And to be scoring that big with that, you're looking with um the team getting smaller, it's just even more points. Um,
Yep. Yep.
so
And another thing I wanted to add, when Petrarca, when he had his breakout year, he scored 180 in the practice games. So everyone's comparing Gordon to Petrarca in that sense, that was a key sign of when he was going to break out. So is it good
yeah,
Gordon time?
yeah. Um, he just looks absolutely class, and he's going to have a massive jump. I reckon he'll definitely be in the top 10. He could be higher, he could be lower. Like I said with Cornelio, I put Gordon just ahead of him because of what I saw.
Yep.
Obviously, like you said, you were looking at role. I was looking at how players were performing, and then looking at how it transferred into points. So Gordon looked tip-top shape, and Cornelio looked a bit slower, a step back from everyone. So that's why I've got them two switched.
Yep.
But like I said, anything can happen.
Yep. Definitely. I think Gordon is it's a potential big breakout. So I don't hate that at all. My number 5, I've got Timmy Taranto. Um, we all know what he can do, and he's probably been the best Richmond player over pre-season. The only reason he's 5 is because he can't kick the thing. Even though I know you're thinking in your head, Jack, he actually went at like 70% in the practice matches. It's not that bad, which it's not, but that's a good game for him. There's definitely times where he goes 40, 50%, and those are the games that I think he's going to hurt his scores. He's an absolute contested ball. Looks to be that number 1 for the Tigers. Has popped up for a few goals in pre-season, so that work rate, if you can get forward, snag a few, that's going to help him. But he's a really high possession player that he relies on to get those tons. So um, I think he's going to be a consistent. Will rarely go under 90. But I don't think he has the potential to really smash out a few 140s, 150s. He'll definitely have a couple, but it just depends on how he uses that ball. So I've got him in at number 5 just purely because he's a butcher. All right, number 4. Who do you have in that spot?
The man I've been raving about last year and this year, Dylan Moore.
Yep.
Now, I've seen some people say he's not an option, he's not great because he plays for Hawthorn. He had 80 Supercoach points at halftime in the prac. He had 20 touches. He was everywhere in the back line, on the wing, in the forward line. He was absolutely dominating, and they put him on ice for the second half. Like, yep, you've shown that you are that guy. Rest up. We don't want you to get injured for round 1. He's got a wing role. He played wing for the half. I don't think he might have started a couple of times in the forward line, but if he did, he was still pushing up the ground. And I'm pretty sure I said when we did the team reviews, I think Dylan Moore can average over 100. I'm even more confident that he can. 20 touches and a half is crazy, especially on a wing. He wasn't an inside mid, but it still looked like he was the main guy they were going to all in and around the ground. He was their target to get those inside 50s, and we know with Dylan Moore, he can kick 4 or 5 goals in the first half if he wants, but he's lucky to kick one in the second half. But those goals just add extra to what he's doing around the ground. He doesn't need those goals to score high like he did last year a little bit. He's getting plenty of the ball and he's using it very well.
Yeah. So you said that they put him on ice at halftime. Um, if we can look at Ben Cousins, he was on ice, so he could be a premiership player this year. Dylan Moore. So yeah, I've got him at number 4, but I might bump him up with that information. So he's someone I've doubted over the last season and this preseason, but he just keeps getting the pill.
You jumped on the bandwagon that I started, eh?
He's my F1 in our draft, so
Yeah, you bloody dingo.
I've been listening to you, and I'm happy to have him in my draft at the moment. Yeah, 80 super coach in a half. He's in for definitely a 120 there, but who knows how high he could have gone. Um, his role, he's still going to spend time up forward, but he's going to get that big run through the midfield, which is what we want to see. He's definitely a upgrade target for me, and he's going to be a pretty consistent scorer in my opinion. I just don't think he's going to average as much as the last 3 players that I have in the forward line, so I've put him comfortably in at number 4. All right, let's get to these top 3. So who's your number 3?
Mine's Tim Taranto. Now, you said a lot. I've just got to say one thing. He scored 70 Supercoach points in the third quarter against Melbourne. The one quarter Richmond, you could say, looked like they tried. Now, I'm not saying they didn't try for the four quarters. We don't know. But the third quarter, Richmond dominated the game. Taranto scored 70 points in that quarter. He kicked the goal. He had, I think it was like 12 or 13 touches in that quarter alone. He scored 133 Supercoach for the game. The thing you talked about being a butcher is the good thing is that's Richmond's play style. So Richmond, unlike the Giants, where they're not expecting someone to miss a target and then it's a turnover, Richmond players are expecting it. They're
Yeah,
expecting the unknown. So obviously he's not going to get the perfect disposal efficiency super coach point, but he's still going to get the effective disposal because it ended up in the teammates' hands, which I
yeah,
think is like +1 or something like that instead of like the +2 or +3 for hitting them on the tit and they mark it. So I feel like with it being him at Richmond, it obviously does matter because he's losing a couple of points per missed kick, but most times over the not, it's still going to end up in a Richmond player's hand, so it's not going to be as hurtful as it was for the Giants because the Giants you have to hit him on the tit for him to get the ball, not expect him to win a loose ball on the ground.
yeah,
Um, but in saying that, I don't think he goes better than my top two, but I think he easily jumps his average by 10, 15 points at an average of 91 last year.
yeah,
Um, but I feel like, as well, sadly, this is the last year we see him as a forward. Him and Hopper had, I think it was like 70% CBAs for the game. Now, obviously, you had Prestia go down and Jaden Short, so you're there like, what happens if they're fully fit? Is it a bit less? But we've already had Neil Baum, all these players around Richmond saying they're going to be in 90%, like, majority of the CBAs. When they're on the ground, they're going to be in the middle.
yeah,
Which obviously is fantastic for him as a super coach option, but like just his super coach scoring, we're going to see more hundreds, more 130 pluses. Don't know if he can go big to score like that 160 plus, but we can see a lot of 130s, a lot of 120s, and a lot of 110s, which in the forward line, we're like, that's bloody amazing. We're looking for 100, 105 for a forward and he's most a fair few a bit of times he's going to go above that, which is amazing.
yeah. Nice, nice. Yep, my number three, I've got Stephen Cornelio. So you spoke about him a bit before. A few things I have to say, I guess, as a rebuttal to your argument, is he had a low time on ground because he got injured. Yeah, well, not injured. He copped a knock. So if you look at it, he scored 80 points from, I think it was 63 or 64% time on ground, which isn't going to happen unless he does get injured. So if you think that's probably about 110 if he plays 85% time on ground, which is what I think he will average this year is around that 110 mark. He did look a tad slow. I do agree with that. He missed the first unofficial game, so that could be a reason why. But also, I think a reason is Josh Kelly looks to be that number one midfielder. He was outstanding. But I think Cornelio, he has that potential to push forward and kick goals, which is what I think Kelly is lacking. So um, I I think, as I said, I was looking more at role, and Canelo had the role. He just might have not gone out of first or second gear, and then when he had that knock, he's like, "All right, I'm just going to play it safe. I want to get through this game, and then we'll be ready for round one." So that's why I've got Canelo in at number three.
But yeah, like I said, we don't know how anyone wanted to play teams or individual, but just that looking step behind everyone else, I just think it could impact his start of the season. And like I
Yep.
said, he can still go huge.
Yep. Fair. All right. Number 2. Who do you have there?
I've got Connor Rosie.
Yep.
We spoke about him a bit with Butters. That role is amazing. He also showed it in the Pracky games. He went big in fingers like a 130 odd. In the Pracky game, it was everywhere. Every time I looked over, or if I was like just because I was listening to the game, I felt like every 5-10 seconds I was just hearing Connor Rosie's name. It was crazy. He just looks like he's got the better role this year, but it looks like his disposal's got him better. He's a bit more calmer on the ball. I guess you can say looking for the best target to hit, not just the first one he sees, which he did do at times the last couple of years. And he also has the ability to kick goals, which I think jumps him up a lot as well. But that midfield role is the best part about Rosie with his skill set.
Yeah, I've got him in at number 2 as well, and we've seen him have this role in spurts over the last couple of years. You know, we've seen him average 120 in a 4 to 5 game span just because he's had that role. But then, someone who's injured has come back in, so he's gone back forward, or he's gotten injured. So he's lost that role, but he's looking healthy, he's looking fit, and he's looking to absolutely destroy that midfield. I see him going 110 ish as well. So he could easily switch with Canelio, in my opinion. But he's definitely top 3 if he maintains this midfield role, which is exciting. That's the big thing. He's exciting to watch. So with him in our Supercoach teams, it just makes us want to watch him even more. So, yep, in at number 2, which means Jack, number 1.
It's Josh Dunkley.
Yep.
Like I said with Toronto, but this is the last year we're going to see him as a forward option, in my
Yep.
opinion. But even that, like talking about next year, he's still going to be a great option, even if he doesn't have the forward line. Obviously, he's not as much of a must-have as he is in the forward line, but he's still going to be a great pickup. Like going on this year, played midfield with Lockie Neal, like the number 1, and everyone was worried about, oh, how's that going to impact their scoring? It didn't. Lockie Neal's still got his 120 plus, which everyone wants to see, and Josh Dunkley went bigger with 143, I believe it was, off the top of my head. Gets plenty of the ball. Unlike last year at the Bulldogs, where it was Bontempelli, McRae, Bailey Smith, Liberatore all jumping in to get midfield time, which saw his average at 108. This year, he doesn't have to worry about having so many great mids around him. Obviously, not saying Brisbane don't have great mids, but like they don't have 6-7 players you can take midfield time off you.
Yeah.
So he's going to have a lot more midfield time, which we saw in the Pracky and the likes of Zorko spending more time, I believe it was forward. That's obviously more midfield minutes for him, and I can just see him going absolutely nuts and averaging that like 120, 125, and be one of the top scoring players in the whole competition. It might be a big call, but I think he might be top 3 in scoring players this year.
Yeah, I've got him number 1 as well, just to clarify. I think he could definitely be the number 1 scoring super coach of this year, and to have him in our forward lines is absolutely perfect. He's a must start. He gets a lot of it. He can go forward, kick goals, but the big thing is he tackles as well. He loves to tackle. Like there was an instance in the practice game where he went to ground with the ball. He tapped it out, and then from laying down, he's launched forward and tackled again and got a free kick from it. So he's an absolute bull. He just wants to tackle as well, which means he's scoring his ceiling. Just keep getting higher and higher. If you don't have Dunkley in your side, you're doing Supercoach wrong, in my opinion. It should be 100%. Well, actually,
He's at 68% right now.
68. So she should definitely be in the 90s because you have to factor in all those autofill sides. So yeah, Dunkley has to be in there, and he's easily number one. So all right, that's our rucks and forwards done. Jack, quickly, can you just go through from 5 to 1 your rucks and then 10 to 1 with your forwards?
Yeah, so ruck number 5, I got Johnny English, Tim English. Number 4, I've got Rowan Marshall. Number 3, I've got Max Gawn. Number 2, I've got Sean Darcy, and number 1, I've got Jared Witts.
Yep.
And my forwards, number 10, I got Jeremy Cameron. Number 9, Tom Lynch. Number 8, Isaac Heaney. Number 7, Butters from South Park. Number 6, Stephen Cornelio. Number 5, Errol Goldenchild Goulden. Number 4, Dylan Moore. Number 3, Tim Taranto. Number 2, Connor Rosie. And number 1, Josh Dunkley.
Yep. And I'll quickly go through mine. So the rucks: 5, Rowan Marshall; 4, Sean Darcy; 3, Max Gawn; 2, Tim English; and 1, Jared Witts. And my forwards: number 10, Tanner Bruin; number 9, Jeremy Cameron; number 8, Isaac Heaney; number 7, Zach Butters; number 6, Errol Goulden; Taranto at 5, Dylan Moore at 4, Cornelio at 3, and Rosie at 2, with Dunkley at the 1. Anything you want to add before I close out this podcast, Jack?
No.
No, awesome. So starting from next week, we're going to preview all of our new segments that we're going to do throughout the year. So we've gotten all the big preseason stuff done. So next week you'll find out what you will see consistently from us each round. So that's going to be exciting. We have our team reveals coming on. They should be out by Tuesday. So look out for those, and let's see how crazy how our sides have gone. But don't forget the Breakevens Unlimited group. 432856 is the code. Let's try and get 150 people in there. The more the merrier, and let's see who comes out on top. Okay, our socials. So you can find us on Twitter at BreakevensPod. Trying to hit 500 followers over there. We're at 386, so 114 more to go. So make sure you give us a follow over there. That's where you can interact with us probably the most. We're on there all the time. But also on YouTube, we're trying to hit 200 subscribers. We're at 108 right now. So click that red subscribe button and then comment in the comments section below with any questions, and we'll always get back to you as much as we can. So with that done and dusted, thank you all for watching and listening on YouTube and all Apple Podcasts. And until next time, it's bye for now.
See ya.